I say a recorded thank you to Trevor Fossey and Russell Isaac Long at the end of every episode these days. But up front, I want to take an extra moment to appreciate them. I get to meet wonderful people and host this podcast, but Trevor puts in so many hours editing and equalizing the episodes. It takes a long time to get the details straight. And my good friend Russell Isaac Long has his own business, keeping him very busy, but he still finds time to write music for this show. I appreciate you both. It's teamwork, collaboration, and supporting one another that makes this show possible. Welcome to the Morning NoCo, bringing wonderful people and conversations to you one episode at a time. I am your host, Ivan Wayne. Who will it be this time? Freedom to do what we want is something that many people desire, talk about, and contemplate. We talk about having freedom to be who we want to be, like it's some overhanging mist in the sky above. But what happens when a business owner decides to free herself, take charge, and make something as simple as a straight line into a beautiful representation of someone's story, purpose, mission, or their personality? Here's Rachel, our guest today, to discuss her journey into entrepreneurship and her view that freedom to do what we want is only our very first step.
Yes.
From Oklahoma, people say I have an accent, and a lot of times that's because I put the emphasis on the first syllable of every word.
Yes.
So, like, I would never say Caribbean. I would say Caribbean.
Caribbean, yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense,
It causes me to mispronounce some people's names.
Right, yeah. If you, either way, you know when you go to Safeway sometimes and they say, like, thanks, have a good day, and they call you by your last name? Mm-hmm. People always just, like, they'll be like, thanks, have a good day, Mrs. And then they just kind of get really quiet and mutter.
Just let it go?
Just let it go, yeah. Most people don't know how to say it, so.
Interesting.
It is Nedrud, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rachel Nedrud.
Nedrud, you got it, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Owner and founder of Freeline Creative. We're recording here on campus at UNC, so first of all, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And let's let people out there who don't know, what is Freeline Creative?
So Freeline Creative is a graphic design business that I started to basically just help businesses create a visual identity for themselves. I do everything from logo creation to marketing collateral. So I do offer packages if you need business cards or flyers or brochures, whatever it may be. Even if you want to go large scale, billboard wise, I do it all basically. So whatever you need for your business or your personal endeavor, that's why I'm here. So
how long has Freeline Creative been out there?
I started my business actually, I am just a baby. So I started my business in March of 2018. So less than a year now we've been in business, and by we, I'm actually a one-man band, so it's just me right now. That might change in the future. Even in this 1 year, I have been so just incredibly blessed with the clientele that I've had. It's been very consistent business, and everything has been word of mouth so far. I haven't really had to market myself in the last year, which is pretty incredible. Right now, I'm already looking at possibly finding another graphic designer that I can partner with, not necessarily an employee, but somebody that we can be equals in the business. But that takes time to find, and you want to find somebody who definitely carries your style and create something that you would be proud to put out there. So I don't know. I think changes will definitely be coming in the next year or so, but it's been a very busy and steady first year, and we're not even at year one yet.
Right, which is good. It's good.
Yeah.
And bringing someone else new into a business like this, especially when you've been a sole proprietor, I feel like that could be such anxiety inducing and make you nervous, because now this other person is representing Freeline Creative for the first time when it was always Rachel beforehand.
It's hard because because I've had a few friends and a few family members even that have started businesses with friends of theirs. Truthfully, it hasn't gone well in a certain, in certain situations. So it's hard to know too, or it's hard to navigate, do you bring somebody on that you know well? Do you bring somebody on who you just know you work together well, but you're not necessarily friends before it starts? And it's just finding the right person takes time, and it's a little nerve-wracking for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with just less than a year.
Exactly.
And this is good.
Yes.
And so now that I know you only started this recently, my next question and my next thought is going to be more fascinating to myself personally. You landed WeldWorks.
Yes.
Like right off the bat.
Yeah.
And that has got to be a huge thing. And so how did your relationship with WeldWorks come about?
WeldWorks has really been the catalyst for me starting my business. I don't think until I secured their business, I don't think I even really knew what I was capable of doing. And so that's been a huge gift. But how I secured that was Neil is actually a close friend of ours. Neil Fisher is a co-owner of WeldWorks. And we have been really close friends with him and his wife, Bianca, for several years, many years, actually, maybe 8 or 9 now, and also in the same small group as them with our church. And he knew that I dabbled in graphic design and basically wanted to give me a shot. And so he gave me a few initial labels to design just to kind of see if our styles would line up and if I kind of fit the direction that they were going. Fortunately, they did. And so it's been an account that I've been able to hang on to for a while now. And yeah, so it was a friendship that sparked that initially. And through that, honestly, WeldWorks is such a great crew. Colin is the other co-owner, Jake and Kristen. I've been working with a few from there, and they're all just wonderful people. So
Colin Jones of WeldWorks has been on the show. And so
shout out.
Yeah, and so has Bianca.
Yes.
She was on the show as well.
Oh, she was?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, she was one of the very first episodes, actually.
Oh my gosh. She's one of my best friends. So
very cool.
Yes, yeah.
I guess she got a promotion sometime after the episode, so I should reach out, because she might be in a completely different role than what I talked to her about.
She's still at the DDA, and she is now the executive director of the DDA. So it's pretty phenomenal. She's worked her way right up the ladder there, and she's now the executive director. So
if people see things coming from WeldWorks now, that's you.
Yes. Yeah. So last year, I don't even know an exact number off the top of my head, but they had this challenge basically that they wanted to give themselves last year. That was to brew 100 beers in a year. Mm-hmm. So,
they surpassed it.
They surpassed it. Yeah. I don't even know. I think we maybe did 125 plus can labels last year. And I did probably 6 to 8 bottle labels. So yeah, it's been pretty wild ride. I did all of those. Yes. Yeah. And they also have me working on the WeldWorks Invitational Festival logo. So the first festival was last year, which was a huge hit. The next one is this year, I think June. Don't quote me on that, but I'll be doing the logo for that too. And so just any miscellaneous design projects that are needed there, they hit me up for too. And it's been a lot of fun.
Is the current WeldWorks logo also made by you?
No, actually it's not. That one, I do know who made that one, and he's a phenomenal graphic designer out of Fort Collins, but that was not me.
Yeah. Yes. Shout out to Anonymous.
Yes.
And I was actually going to ask you because back, I want to say it was maybe like 2 years ago, I personally noticed, I'm a huge WeldWorks fan. I take everyone there if they haven't been.
Awesome.
I noticed that their logo changed multiple times in like a real short time period. And I was like, well, this is interesting. Like they're trying out new things, but now the logo that they have has been around for a while.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you just kind of evolve as you start a business. And as they went, I think they kind of decided to change up their color schemes a little bit and their overall aesthetic within the tap room. And so with that, required a few logo alterations. So they still use that original steam barrel, but then they incorporated a few other elements into that. So
how do you even begin this process of figuring out, okay, as a graphic designer, as someone who makes logos and artwork, I have my style, but I also want it to fit who my client is or who my partner is. How do you even start that with,
like question.
WeldWorks or some of your other clients?
Well, with WeldWorks specifically, fortunately, our styles really are totally aligned with each other. We were kind of a little all over the place last year as far as styles go with, I have a very minimalist style, which is linear, kind of geometric style, which I would do some labels in. And then others were a little bit more illustrative. This year, actually, Jake and I have been working a lot on just streamlining that and making them all kind of fit into a certain realm or a certain style. Whether it be a label or a logo, labels are kind of a whole nother story because you've seen their beers. They have some pretty creative beers that they come up with that really drives my creativity for the label. The ingredients that they use are sometimes off the wall, and it just makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You can kind of tap back into that nostalgic side, like, you know, if it's a cereal that you had when you were a kid or something like that, it can kind of stir up some inspiration there. But with logos, I think it's really important to know the story of your client. I've always been really big on that, actually, because I know now starting a business is a lot of work, and I really value the work that other people put into creating their own business. And, you know, that's something that I want to represent the best that I can. And the only way that I can do that is by knowing their story and just knowing really the goals that they want to meet with their business. And yeah, just kind of creating a friendship there, being a user of their products, being a consumer of their products, and
knowing what they put out,
doing the research. Yeah. Exactly. And just through that alone, it just helps me immensely in just kind of finding a point A to go off of. So
yeah, you mentioned when you all go back and forth in this conversation, you mentioned specifically with WellWorks last year, you all kind of honed in this like common ecosystem of ideas for their logos and designs, and how, because I just feel like sometimes you look at things and you just have a feeling, but it's almost hard to put it into words. You struggle with that sometimes, like, okay, well here I was thinking, and then you have no idea how to explain it.
Sometimes words are not my greatest gift, I'll be honest. And so sometimes it's just in talking it takes a lot of communication, basically. You know, it takes a lot of communication and back and forth with your client, again, and just getting to know what their overall vision and goals are. Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
No, that's great. Does it take like several iterations back and forth? You know, because sometimes they may not be able to capture what they're saying. And they'll say, I see what you're saying. Like they send something back to you and they say, I want X and Y changed. Yes. And then you change it and they're like, oh my goodness, that's actually not what I meant at all. Yes. Like, oops, I chose the wrong vernacular. Yes. Here, visuals are so different from text, and sometimes it's, That's so true. It'd be hard to draw a visual to someone to say, here's more what I'm thinking.
In the initial stages of, before a project gets started, I definitely have a consultation with the client and get an overall, I have them send samples to me of logos that they like. I've created mood boards of 9 different styles that people can go to, each style and see, okay, here's a group of logos that are designed in this style and this style and this style. And I kind of put them through an onboarding process, if you will, before the project starts. And that helps a ton, just so I at least know, because typically I create, if it's a logo, we'll usually do 3 concepts initially. And then, there's always revision rounds included in every, of course, every package. And so, you can't read people's minds. And sometimes you just need to go based off, okay, this is what I acquired in the onboarding process, but you don't always get it right the first time. And that's so true what you said too. I've had clients before think that they know what they want, and then I'll send them 3, the initial first drafts, and they might, maybe think they're too masculine or too, they just didn't quite fit what they were looking for. And sometimes we might have to, call a Hail Mary and recreate them and, start over. And that's okay too. It just, you do what you can to prevent that from happening, but it happens. And I don't fault the client for that at all. Sometimes it's hard to know what you want until you can see the visual of it. Right. I'm a very visual person, so it's easy for me, but I understand that's not always easy for everybody else. So, yeah.
And language and the way we express ourselves, it limits the ability for us to put forth ideas. In other languages than English, there are words for things that don't exist in the English language, and vice versa. Or there's turns of phrases that get at a certain human an experience or emotion that is not captured by other words or other languages.
Right.
It's like someone could sit down and tell you for 100 hours their life story. And when they stop talking and they're done, you still won't know a lot of the bottom of the iceberg of that person's story. You get 100 hours. Yeah. But it almost ends up like you only can understand the little fragments that they were able to actually tell you. There's such a difference between the reservoir of a feeling in our brain versus what we actually get to tell another human being. And I think that is the power of what you do in Freeline Creative is like these images achieve things that text and words can't.
Yes, that's a very good way of putting it. And I think a lot of times when people are telling their life story, you might not remember a lot of it too, because you kind of naturally, we want this ability to connect with people. So you remember things in their story that maybe you share in common with them, and you might forget everything else, but you just it's kind of this need to connect as humans. Is what you draw out in conversation with people that you don't know. So
makes me think how a couple can be together for 40 years and still be surprised by their partner saying something.
That's so true.
And all of a sudden you look over and you're like, I've been with you for 4 decades, but it's strange that you said that one thing.
Yes. No, that's absolutely true.
So where does the name Freeline Creative come from?
Finding a name for your business is hard.
For a visual business.
For a visual business, yeah. I was up just so many nights just thinking about this, and it probably sounds so silly, or I'd be driving down the road like, what in the world am I going to name this business? Freeline Creative literally popped into my head in the middle of the night, like woke me up out of a dead sleep, because I just had this realization that the line is always just going to be a line until it has that freedom to move and to take shape and to create something authentic and beautiful. And I just love that parallel to our own lives. I am a faith-based person, and so I feel like I've been given a lot of freedom to, form my own identity and, create this person that I, set out to be. But if we don't take advantage of that freedom, those things aren't tapped into. And so I just love the parallelism into design and that single line, and how it's always going to be a single line until you make it move, and then something authentic is born. And that's kind of how I came up with it.
Now, risking the listeners yelling at their host for being an idiot, I would like to ask, when you say line, you mean like a
literal line?
Like drawing a line on a piece of paper when starting to make a logo? Or you mean like when you're just drawing? You don't mean like a line in the sand, like, will you cross the line?
No, not. It's a literal line, not figurative necessarily. I mean, I guess figurative into our own lives, know, but literally, a design starts with just putting your pen on a piece of paper, or, a click of a mouse with graphic designers, it's usually a click of a mouse, making it, we all make it our own. So there's so many different ways. There are literally endless amount of ways that design can end up. So,
right. And you mentioned on your website that you have a quote in there that freedom is a tool. Embrace it. And I think both, and this is going to be a strange connection for many music fans out there, but bouncing off my brain here, both 21 Pilots and Pink Floyd, both music groups have commented how freedom comes with a responsibility to do something with it. We all want freedom. We want it. We want the freedom of choice. But when you've got freedom, what are you going to do with it? And that's what your quote really bounced out to me from the website. And I think you just kind of touched on it a little bit too. Yeah,
that's awesome. I did not know that they said that too. I don't know if a lot of people even realize the amount of freedom that they have and what a huge gift that is, I guess vulnerability moment, that's something that I've really struggled with a lot in my own life is finding worth in yourself, that, okay, you're worth this job. You are worth starting a business. You're worth this, because I think especially in the age of technology, there's a lot of comparison that comes with that. You're constantly looking at what everybody else is doing. It just beats you up. It's so self-destructive to do that. And in a sense, you kind of lose your freedoms because it inhibits you from actually doing what you were born to do, and there's so many things that so many people are born to do, but that comparison and that constant, just, what is everybody else doing? And I have to, make this much money or meet these goals or have this many followers, whatever it may be, it stops you. And so I think when you can kind of learn to let that go, which it's a process, but when you can learn to kind of let that go is when that innate freedom in you really takes shape. And I think it really surprises you and where it can take you, but you have to let go of a lot of things to let that happen. So
how did this reflection alter and kind of shift you to starting your own business?
I didn't actually even know I wanted to be a graphic designer for a long time. As I mentioned to you, I was a journalism major. So sitting here in my alma mater in your office at UNC, I wanted to be a journalist. And through kind of a big turn of events, I am where I am now. And I don't know if you want me to go into all of that.
Absolutely.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, how does one go from journalism to Freeline Creative?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, no, it's an interesting trail. But so after I graduated from college, I actually ended up with an internship at CBS 4 News in Denver.
Oh, wow.
And I was there probably a month and decided it just was not for me. I think that there's some things that you just do in life where sometimes it's really hard to leave those things, and other times you just know without a shadow of a doubt that that's the right decision. And I think I've been really blessed in that in my life, is that when I know a door needed to close, it's been very easy to let that door close. And that was one of those things. I'm a competitive person, but man, that's a competitive industry. And you sacrifice a lot of things to be a full-time journalist. And, down the road, family and just living life is a lot more feasible. But to get to that point, you make a lot of sacrifices and you put a lot of things on hold. Yeah. And so it wasn't for me. It wasn't the kind of life I wanted to live. I still absolutely am obsessed with the news and obsessed with journalism and total documentary nerd and documentary junkie. I love it all, but it wasn't my life. So then after that, I ended up with a job as a marketing assistant at Interweave, which was a book publishing company in Loveland, downtown Loveland. Absolutely loved that job. That was my first introduction into Adobe Suites. So we used Photoshop to create a lot of the email marketing that we did there. And I had never really touched Photoshop before that. And so it was so fun to just be able to create the emails in there on a very basic level. But it was that job that sparked my interest into what other programs Adobe Suites offered, which was, of course, Illustrator. And that is like my love. And I work in Illustrator every single day of my life now, probably like way too many hours. Yeah. So that it just introduced me to that world. And that job, that company was acquired by another company, and I ended up leaving. I was working in actually oil and gas for a while after that, doing HR. But HR, as you can imagine, like somebody who's very creative, and whether it be graphic design or marketing, going into an HR position was like a shock to my soul. Like it wasn't me. HR is a very black and white world. And I'm also a very personable person. I like being friends with people and creating relationships with people. And with HR, you kind of have to create a wall between you and the employee. And that was really hard for me. It was in my last year I was there that Neil and I kind of started talking about options for graphic design and their need for their business. And then I was doing that on the side of my HR job for about a year before I decided to start my business, because through that, other business started coming along. And I think when I got to the point where I literally couldn't I admire you. You have, a couple teaching jobs, and, it's hard to manage multiple jobs, but I got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore, and I had to choose one or the other. And for me, it was a pretty easy decision. A lot of sacrifices, long hours. It's been a big learning curve this year, but I definitely don't regret it at all. And it's pretty cool that what I learned working at Interweave was kind of always in the back of my head all of those years. And it's something that I knew I wanted to tap into a lot more. But I think I fell into that world of security and comfort and just kind of rode that for a while. And I think that that's also really easy for people to fall into. Yeah. Again, embracing your freedom, getting out of that, being uncomfortable is not fun sometimes, but when you force yourself out of that, amazing things happened. And, that's my testament for the last year. So
I was going to say, is this HR position now in the rearview mirror? Is it bittersweet? Because without it, would we have Freeline Creative today?
It's one of those things that it was the right decision. And it's going to open so many other doors, until you close that door. Really, if you go to work every day and you're not happy with what you're doing, there comes a point where you have to get out of it, because it's going to consume you, and you have to close a door to realize how many doors can open. And that's exactly what's happening now. And it's slightly terrifying too, and
how ironic and interesting to me that your major in college and your career journey started with words.
True.
It was journalism, yes. And then it was book publishing. And now you're the opposite.
You're
in a visual medium.
Yes. I've never looked at it like that before. That's so true.
Do you feel like, although in a weird, ironic situation, do you feel like working in those industries, journalism and publishing and, you know, looking at books helped you in your logo design and visual, you know,
Absolutely.
graphic design?
Yeah. I think it's all, I'm a lover of stories and storytelling, and whether it be with words or with visuals, they definitely parallel with one another. It's just a different way to tell a story, basically, which is really cool. I've never looked at it that way. So thank you.
The more you NoCo. Right
yeah,
here.
exactly.
And on your website, you have some interesting figures. And one of them is that people typically look at a logo about 6.5 seconds before moving on. I think a lot happens in a person's mind and their psyche in that 6 seconds as they're looking at a logo that doesn't get translated from text. And you said on your website, this is important in a world of snap judgments. And I feel like, when's the last time you looked over someone's shoulder as they're browsing through Facebook or Instagram? And it's like, my God, there's no way you're consuming all of that.
Oh,
You're
totally.
scrolling so fast.
Yeah.
But yet we'll hang on these visual images, photos. They just draw us for some reason over text.
You said it. I mean, social media and technology has completely, I guess, depleted our ability to focus on any one thing for a long period of time. I guess there's so many things to be distracted by, you know? And so that is absolutely true, because if you just kind of have to think, okay, if I'm scrolling Instagram or Facebook or whatever it may be, what are the things that are catching your attention? For me, I mean, of course it looks different for everybody else. It's definitely very bold, big designs. And if I'm looking at, if I'm driving down the road, for instance, and there's like a whole shopping mall of businesses and I'm looking at all of the logos, I'm usually like totally breaking apart what I don't like about the logos. And unfortunately, basing the fact of whether I trust their business based off their logo. So it's so silly. It probably sounds silly, but if they don't use a font that is very professional, or if they, use a color theme that's not professional, or maybe their logo doesn't even represent what they do, I'm like, nope, don't trust them. I'm moving on. I think kind of internally, a lot of people do that, which is why, graphically, it's so important to create something that is memorable for people, that's recognizable for people, because you do not have their attention span long. So if you have a web page and, don't fill it with words, fill it with visuals, fill it with, even that page that you got that information off of, quick statistics. People will read statistics and people will look at visuals a lot more than they're actually going to read pages of text.
Yeah.
And something that's kind of interesting too that just came to mind was, if you think of a logo, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but like with FedEx, for instance, FedEx has a little arrow, if you look at their logo, that's hidden within the FedEx word. And a lot of people don't know that, but they do know that, because they've seen it, but they didn't put two and two together. And it's almost like, it's just so clever. Yeah, your subconscious ability to pick out what's memorable about a visual. And there's so many logos like that, actually, or where you can just see half of a logo that's maybe on a semi driving by or on the tail of a plane or something like that. And just by seeing a fragment of it, you know exactly what company it belongs to. That's what you're going for. So,
right.
Yeah.
There's a classic case we talk about in Psych where you ask children questions about the content that they should, quote unquote, should have learned in school. And then you quiz them on popular brand names. And they'll get it 100% on all the logos, but not 100% on the content that they have supposed to, quote unquote, been learning in school.
That's so true.
It sinks in. It's salient.
Yes. It's kind of sad too. I've seen videos of kids who know like the McDonald's theme song or the jingle. That's what they call them.
I'm loving it.
I'm loving it. Yeah. The slogans. And then they can't recite the national anthem or things that are pertinent to,
friends' phone
historical
number,
knowledge.
Parents' phone number.
Yes, exactly. But it's interesting how our subconscious works, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners tune into the More You Know Go if they're looking at that logo or their design and they're thinking, maybe Rachel could help. How could people get a hold of you? Where could we send people for Freeline Creative?
Yeah. So again, www.freelinecreative.com, and you can contact me there. Email is always optimal just because, I don't know why my phone is acting up right now. So if it's in the immediate future, definitely email me because there are no guarantees I will get your voicemail right now. My phone number is on my website too, if that works for you. So email Rachel@freelineCreative.com. Yeah. Or contact me via my website.
Okay. Maybe the robocalypse has begun if your phone is acting up.
Oh, man.
And not taking commands anymore, and our days are numbered.
Yeah. Well, I'm a few versions behind, so I need to get with the times.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. I have some shout outs for a couple people who make this show live and breathe, making it all possible. Trevor Fossey edits, mixes, and EQs our episodes, putting the time in behind the scenes. Russell Isaac Long provides us with the wonderful music that greets and departs all our episodes here at the NoCo. It's people like these two who have made this show possible, and I thank you both very much. To stay connected with the NoCo, follow us on Instagram or Facebook at the NoCo. Original, right? Don't worry, listener. We will be back soon with another episode featuring another person or a group of people. Thank you to everyone out there for listening and supporting the show and bringing our community together. Until next time, peace!